Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the Ray Esports Racing League here on Apex Racing TV. My name is Ron Mullins. Joining me in the commentary booth, as usual, is Charles Bichelle, and in the virtual production hall, however, old buddy Joshua Wilkie. Now, tonight we're at Laguna Seca and ready to start the final trifecta of races here from the season. We're getting to crunch time here, Charles, so heading into this part of the season where tempers may be a little bit hot, what do you think is a mental strategy that some of these drivers may implement coming into these final three races?
I think it's just survival, right? That's the first thing, is you just have to get through the race cleanly, try and avoid mistakes and other people's mistakes as well. And then just try and shoot for the best position you can get during the race. And it's always easier said than done. So, and this is a pretty challenging track, I think, for these cars especially. I think because of their the way they like to slide these cars around, this is probably going to be pretty entertaining as far as they're watching these guys try and keep it on the gray stuff for the whole race.
We're also back to a fairly normal racetrack, Laguna Seca. Everyone knows and loves it. It's a fantastic circuit. Held some great IndyCar racing over the past, holds some great sports car racing with the IMSA series every single year, and also a fair host of club racing, including the SCCA, year in and year out. I said this is a return to somewhat normalcy when it comes to racetracks. The past 2 weeks, we visited some unusual ovals and unusual rovals, I should say, in the form of the New Hampshire road course 2 weeks ago and the Homestead Miami road course last week. So now coming to a typical racetrack, but one with not very disproportionately long straightaways compared to those circuits. I think slipstreaming isn't going to be as important here in this race. I think clean air, and that's usually a word we don't really mention when it comes to these spec race boards, clean air is going to be a pretty big factor in this. What do you think, Charles?
I think you're right. I think we do have the long front straight that runs down the start-finish line that takes you down into the Andretti hairpin of turns 1 and 2. And that will be good for setting up a pass. You'll get the good run, get a good draft up the hill, over the crest, and then down to the hairpin. And then you can just you do some late braking to try and make your way around a car that you're battling with. But then the rest of the track is trickier than it would quite look at. But yeah, it's a normal road course. But there's some challenging corners on here that we're gonna have to call out, I think, during the course of the night.
Oh yeah, some fun corners as well. This corner, Andretti hairpin turn number 2. Really should be turn number 1. However, that small little uphill kink to kick off the lap is counted as the first corner. Gotta love motorcycle rule when it comes to numbering corners at any sort of circuit across the world. We're running on board with Justin Huffman, and we have some interesting returns for this race. Of course, Justin Huffman, who we saw, he won the championship in multiple categories, including getting a sweep at last season's runoffs here for the Esports Racing League. He's run sporadically so far this season, coming to race with us here tonight. Now, this could be Justin Huffman, or it could be his son, Jamison Huffman. We've seen Jamison use his dad's iRacing account in the past, so we'll see if that is the case here tonight. Another return that we haven't talked about so far in this broadcast. Those who tuned into the Homestead Miami broadcast last Tuesday may have heard the very end where I sounded like a rusty gate creaking in the wind. Thankfully, I've drank enough water whereby my vocal cords have recovered. I sounded absolutely terrible towards the end of that, so thankfully my voice, I don't sound absolutely terrible. It sounded like a Yoko Ono song towards the end of that broadcast. That was not ideal, so thankfully we won't see the return of that here. We have the return of Justin Huffman, who I believe currently in this qualifying session is up at the front. Yes, he is, Justin Huffman, at a 134.161. So that is a very good lap from Huffman. Miles Crab, who are following now, heading through the quick kink of turn number 6 there. He's currently in P number 2. So far, the field is actually spread out a teeny tiny bit in the round. Currently, the top 13 cars to set a qualifying time, separated by 4 seconds. But looking at the front 3 right now, it is very tight, Charles.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty tight up front. It's going to be a nice challenge. Miles Crabs kind of had the hold over the field for the last couple of weeks, and so with Huffman returning, who obviously you just mentioned his ability in the car, so that might be another car up front. It'll be challenging for that win.
And Justin Huffman in real life is a Formula Enterprise 2 driver. I remember back in the days when I was just a wee lad running in the junior kart categories at Autocross. I always looked at the FE2 cars with awe and glitters in my eyes, and I realized that I was much better behind the microphone than behind the wheel. So I kind of switched my attention to doing broadcasting instead of being behind the wheel. But I'll tell you what, Justin Huffman, a very fast race car driver week in and week out. He's proving that right now in this qualifying session with only 4.5 minutes left to go. I think it's a little bit disappointing that we haven't seen him all throughout this season, because he is, as I said before, a very fast driver, and also won the championship here in the Spec Racing Fords back in season 10 of the Esports Racing League, along with winning it in the MX-5s as well. Because the MX-5s, we don't run in those anymore. However, we do run the Spec Racer Fords, and he is continuing to show that out and out pace. This is Jim Brewster, currently in P5 in this qualifying session, getting a nice tow from Andrew Love, who's currently 7th in this session. And Jim is a friend of the show, along with his sister, who tunes into our Weekend Warriors broadcast week in and week out. Currently P5, which I think is a very nice qualifying performance from him right now. We'll have to see if it sticks.
Yeah, we'll have to see if he can just continue this lap. But yeah, he had a really good tow down the front straight, and we'll see if that gave him about another couple of tenths, and maybe he can move up the orders a little bit.
And there's still going to be a lot of movers and shakers in this qualifying session. Still only 13 cars to set a qualifying lap. However, at a track like this, where there's plenty of opportunities to sneak a wheel down the inside, and also plenty of chances for a driver to make some sort of minor mistake, which could send them down the running order, it is going to be an action-packed race that we have coming up this evening. So we have about 3 minutes left to go here in this qualifying session. We're going to crunch time here in a couple of moments' time. So I think, well, we have a small little, I wouldn't say lull in the action, because we still see these drivers chucking these Spec Racer Ford cars around. It's like watching Picasso paint a painting. It's always nice seeing these drivers push their cars to the absolute limit. I think we should thank the wonderful sponsor that we've had from this series week in and week out ever since the season started, along with being a sponsor of the Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warriors every single Sunday here on Apex Racing TV, that being Personal Wealth Solutions. Just like in racing, financial planning and investments require a team behind and experience as well. Personal Wealth Solutions creates custom investment and financial financial planning strategies for select individuals and businesses as well. With over 25 years of experience, their goal is not to have you feel like a number, but make you feel like they're number one. If you'd like to learn more about financial planning run by racers, serving racers, head on over to www.personalwealthsolutions.com. We'd like to thank Personal Wealth Solutions for being very generous all throughout this season, keeping on the great racing that we have week in and week out, without some great sponsors as well. And this man, Stevie Ray, I gotta give it my props to him. Usually the drivers like to thank Stevie for all the tremendous and hard work that he does behind the scenes, but also pulling in the sponsors that we have, the wonderful sponsors that we have here from the Ray Esports Racing League. This man, I mean, the series is his namesake for a very good reason. It simply would not be possible without him. He's heading to the start-finish line now. Will he improve on his P9 qualifying run that he's at right now? 135, still stays in the 135, however, jumps up to 7th. Very nice qualifying lap there from Stevie Ray.
Yeah, it was a great lap. He picked up almost a full second. That was really nice. And yeah, it's one of the reasons Stevie does such a great job, and we get to talk to him at the end of the season every year. And it's just, this is one of the reasons I like doing the broadcast for these for the Weekend Warriors and for the Ray Esports series, is because, you know, Stevie works really hard to get the sponsors in, to keep the drivers happy, and you know, make sure everything gets managed properly, and it's a good group of drivers on top of that. So yeah, really enjoy being able to call these races, and I know Stevie is proud of proud of us, but you know, it's you know, we get paid to do it, but I'm sure he's proud of the work he does, as well as the drivers putting on the show week in and week out.
Yeah, it's a lot of hard work that goes on behind the scenes, from the drivers on track to Stevie organizing everything behind the scenes. Trust me when I say that work does not go unnoticed. So we're here in the dying stages of this qualifying session. We're going to be taking the checkered flag in about 10 seconds time, and this man, Scott Russell, is P3 in this qualifying session, but he's not going to be improving on this lap. Slowed down quite a lot there, ran a little bit wide heading through that kink of turn number 6, which is going to be an extremely uncomfortable corner, especially for some drivers in some dirty air. There's many sections of this race course that we pointed out earlier on that are going to not be the driver's favorite heading around this track and trying to drive as fast as they possibly can. The checkered flag is out here, and it's looking pretty good for Justin Huffman right now. He is still on the provisional pole, hasn't improved on that 1 minute 34.161 qualifying time. We'll see if anyone can improve on their laps here. Mark Sherman in P12 right now. Does he jump up? I don't believe he will there. I think he was slow in the middle sector, and Josh Justice sliding through the runoff area of turn number 9, Rainy Curve. That is probably the farthest off I've seen a car go in both real life and in the sim as well. Oh, there's nearly a T-bone accident with himself and Joaquin Effinger. Hopefully we don't have any repeats of these rally action and rally lines that these drivers are using in the race. That would certainly not be ideal, would it, Charles?
Oh, it would absolutely not, indeed. Yeah, it's going to be, you know, for me, the middle sector of this track, 5, 6, and 7, are really the keys to having a good lap. It's that left-hand turn that starts you up the hill into the kink, which is, you have to be so precise going through there. If you come too far inside, you clobber that sausage curb and you've just destroyed your car. You go wide and you're off in the dirt. Now, obviously, it's not a death sentence if you get off in the dirt anymore, because of the iRacing changes. The car is still recoverable, but you're going to lose tons and tons of speed and time if you get off there. And then, obviously, the corkscrew, you know, that 5-story drop to get you back down to head back to the start-finish line. You know, it's the premier corner. It's one of the best corners in all of racing. So yeah, so those are the keys to the lap, at least for me. The rest, you can make some mistakes here and there, but I think those are the ones that are going to define who's going to end up winning this race.
Now, one thing about this track when it comes to the challenge of every single corner, all 11 on this race course, is that for all kinds of drivers, there's different challenges associated with every single corner. If you talk to one driver compared to another, they'll give you a completely different batch of corners that they either don't like driving through or just always seem to have some sort of moment heading through. So the qualifying session is over. I think we'll take a look at the starting grid for you in just a couple of moments' time here from the Spec Racer Ford Ray Esports event. It'll be Justin Huffman leading them to green. Joining him on the front row is going to be Miles Craft, not very far off there in that qualifying session. I think it is going to be a dogfight between those two in the race that we have coming up. Scott Russell is going to be starting this race in P number 3, only a half a second off of our pole sitter Huffman in the number 22 car. That's going to be Josh Justice in P number 4, Joseph Tarantino in 6th, and our old buddy from the Weekend Warriors series and this Ray Esports Racing League, Jim Brewster, is going to be starting this race in P number 6.
Yes, Stevie Ray, it will be starting in 7th, Andrew Rosencroft in P8, Andrew Love in P9, Seth Bowman rounds out your top 10, and we've got Eric Osborne in 11th, Mark Sherman in 12th, Joaquin Effinger in 13th, Wayne Buttermore in 14th, and Christian Gabanka did not set a time, but he is on the grid, and he will be starting shotgun the field in 15th, and that's your 15-car grid.
I think we're in store for a pretty good race. A whole lot of challenge thrown in as well. We talked about it a little bit as that qualifying session was wrapping up. Some of the tricky corners around this race course. We have a whole lot of time to talk about them because we do have a full pace lap and with only 15 cars starting this race. I say only 15. You could have a 15-person party and have it be the best party in your life, and we're about to see that proven in just a couple of moments' time when they take the green flag in probably about 2 minutes time. So we talked about some of the corners that are going to be real tough, but how about we talk about some of the overtaking opportunities? Turn number 2, the Andretti hairpin, the heaviest braking zone on the circuit, probably going to be one of the bigger ones, but there's also some sneaky overtaking opportunities thrown in throughout the rest of this track as well. Charles, would you like to go over them?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, turn 2 is absolutely probably the best spot to overtake. There's a couple places that I don't really think you want to try overtaking. I think lots of people get that run going into the corkscrew, but it's just high risk, high reward. And sometimes the risk is not worth it trying to make that pass in the corkscrew. The kink, obviously, we always, pass in the kink. But I think the last corner as well, the final corner going back to the start finish straight, is also a really good opportunity to make a dive to the inside because you have to be pretty aggressive on the outside curbs in order to get off, and I think it presents a good opportunity for a move, especially if you get a good run coming down the mountain.
You brought up overtaking into the corkscrew. Not every driver is Alex Zanardi. Alex Zanardi was one of a kind as a human being, is one of a kind as a human being, and is one of a kind as a racer as well. I think that clip of him overtaking Brian Herta into the corkscrew back in 1996, I believe it was, that is absolutely embedded into everyone's mind. I should know that, considering I got into broadcasting partially because of a YouTube channel talking about IndyCar history, so the fact that I didn't have that year memorized is a little bit embarrassing from my perspective. But corkscrew, we may see some drivers go for an overtake. They're going to have some major stones if they want to do that. We'll just have to wait and see where these drivers try and overtake each other, where these drivers put on the best of shows. So that Porsche pace car has gone down pit lane. They're going to round that final corner, turn number 11, and then after that, their driver's going to slam onto that gas pedal and be on their way. We're looking at Justin Huffman. Is he going to take an early jump? Now it's waiting a little bit there. The green flag is out. The drivers are on their way, and that's a pretty even keel start from both of the drivers on the front row. Miles Craft and Justin Huffman going to be side by side heading into turn number 1, possibly 3 wide action there. That is bold stuff, and Scott Russell nearly giving Justin Huffman the old boot scoon boogie, and there's some big contact farther behind with Scott Russell sliding into turn number 2 there. That was a pretty significant whack as he went through that section. Thankfully, these Spec Racer Fords are built like tanks, so they're not going to be picking up major damage from that. Riding on board with Andrew Love, he's now going to be trying sticking it around the outside of Scott Russell. They clear themselves heading into turn number 4, but that was a pretty big whack, it must be said, Charles, as they went through the very first section to complete this lap. Josh Justice getting a hip check heading through turn number 2.
Yeah, Josh put a move to the outside, just kind of looking around. I don't think he was really, unless he saw a really good opportunity, well, I don't think he was going to try and make a pass there, but Russell just locked the tires up coming down into the hairpin, and just basically, I think, just kind of maybe a little bit of a scare there, and said, you know what, maybe get out of the way and not hit anybody, but still ended up hitting Justice. But yeah, doesn't like any damage to either car, so we're going to continue racing.
And I feel like I should clarify myself before we complete this first lap. Jacob Schilling bringing up a great point. It's actually, I believe, the Mustang pace car here. I'm so used to saying Porsche pace car for pretty much every single other broadcast I do here on Apex Racing TV. A little bit of a verbal tick there from me. Christian Kabanka moving up a place. Got a move done on Seth Spolman heading through turn number 11. And Kabanka, who didn't set a qualifying time, is already breaking his way into the top 10. And we're just crossing the start-finish line now for them to start lap number 2. Great first lap from Kabanka. We'll see if he can claw up some more spots between now and the end of this. I think Christian Kabanka maybe had a very good shot of possibly sneaking into a podium position. We'll just have to wait and see some hard fighting there. That was Osborne, a newcomer here to the series, getting a move done on Mark Sherman heading into turn number 1, and now it looks like Sherman was trying to fight back heading into turn number 3, but not close enough. But getting our attention back to Christian Kabanka, cutting his way through the field like a hot knife through butter so far. He's already made up 5 spots in this race, 1 lap in, less than 2.5 minutes in as well. Who knows where he may end up once we reach the checkered flag in I say a few moments time. 17 minutes he still has at his disposal. Who knows where Kabanka is going to end up? What do you think?
Yeah, he's a multi-race winner over in the Weekend Warrior Series. Obviously, longer races, pit stops play in, but he's got good pace in the car. Knows what he's doing behind the wheel. So yeah, and this, I think he made a good strong run the last outing with this car, but just maybe was a little bit tighter of a track. I think this was a little more open, should give him more room to make some moves, and yeah, he could absolutely finish in the top 5 before it's all said and done. We'll dive down in here again.
Ooh, nicely played there from Christian Kabanka. I think he's going to be using turn number 11 quite a lot throughout this race. It's another heavy braking opportunity, and it's a pseudo hairpin in a way. It's tighter than a 90-degree bend. It always feels like a hairpin from my perspective, but either way, Christian Kabanka using that turn like an absolute charm to move up into P at number 9. That was very nicely and cleanly played there from Christian Kabanka, getting by Andrew Rosencroft at the end of lap number 2. He's currently 6.3 seconds off of our leader, Justin Huffman, who is not really pulling away from Miles Crab as we were expecting. That's some rally action from Love exiting turn number 3. That's always a corner that seems to bite me. Look at all the dust clouds getting thrown up from all of these drivers. I think it's going to be like we're in Beijing by the end of this broadcast. We'll probably be able to see for about 20 feet, and that's about it, just from all the dust and sand and dirt getting kicked up by these drivers.
Yeah, they're exploring some track limits right now and just seeing how far they can push the car out to the outside on those corners. And so far, with a little bit of exception of Love and I think Russell as well, both got off in the dirt there and got a little squirmy. So we see, Kabanka with a move into the corkscrew. That's bold. That was a nice move. I think he got a little bit of help from Andrew Love as well, gave him some room to make that move. And so he's picked up another spot and continue to climb up the ladder.
Smooth move, Kabanka moving up another spot. We're taking a look at a replay. This was fairly textbook in terms of the execution, but to do it at the corkscrew, very nicely played. I don't think Andrew Love fought that too hard, though. It looked like he kind of dived towards the outside and let Kabanka go by. I'm going to take a look at our live time screen to see what kind of laps Christian Kabanka is putting on the board, but he is very fast right now, and looks like he may go for a move on Brewster, and this is Eric Osborne in the number 2 car, so we'll see what happened to him heading through the corkscrew here. Very easy to mess up going through there, and big wheel, no, and Wayne Baltimore going for a very similar spin earlier on in that corner as well. Corkscrew once again biting many drivers. It's bite drivers in real life, it's bite drivers in the sim, and it's continuing to bite drivers here from the Esports Racing League.
Yeah, absolutely. That's just such a tricky corner. Obviously the elevation change is apparent. But you have to have a good line going through there, and you have to have your speed right. Obviously, you're kind of braking on a downhill, and that invites tire lockups. So you have to be very careful there. And then just caught a couple of guys out. Luckily, no extra contact, and they were able to continue on racing.
Thankfully, they avoided the walls as well. The walls are very close, and speaking of very close, this is Russell and Kabanka going side by side, heading through the corkscrew, and Jim Brewster nearly getting involved in that as well. Right as we cut to that replay, Kabanka pulled off a textbook move to get by Brewster, and now Brewster's our camera car this fight, with Kabanka sweeping around the outside, heading through turn number 10. Nicely played from the driver of the 178 car to get that move done, and now Jim Brewster looking to pick up the pieces from a razzled, dazzled Scott Russell, who dropped back like a rock in the early stages, had big lockup heading into turn number 2 at the very beginning of the race. Got a move put on him, a sweeping move around the outside by Christian Kabanka to slot his way into P number 6, and now Russell is feeling the burn and the pressure from the likes of Brewster and Love right behind. Meanwhile, at the front, I think I saw Huffman and Krabs swap positions very briefly there. They are very close, covered by about a tenth of a second. So those two are beginning to pull away from the drivers right behind them. We're going to take a look at a replay of Miles Crab briefly taking the lead of this race, and it was a lockup right in front of him from Justin Huffman. He's going to be running wide, heading through the hairpin of turn number 2, and then they're going to be side by side heading into 3. Crab briefly got ahead of him, however, with that dominant inside line heading through that 90-degree right-hander, it was Huffman holding off still.
Yep, so far as it was just a nice battle through the corner, and yeah, they're still hanging on out there. They managed to gap the gap back to Justice by 3 seconds, and then Stevie Ray another 2 seconds back beyond that. So yeah, it's just going to be that battle. It's going to be who's going to make a mistake and who's going to take advantage of it. So far, Huffman's managed to hang on to the lead, but Crab is right there on his tail.
Those two are really, really shifting. Josh Justice is a Spec
wide.
Racer 4 driver in real life, and I think I may have pulled off a commentator's jinx on him because I saw a car that I'm not sure who that was that went off the track farther up the road. I thought that it was Josh Justice there very briefly. I was about to feel like a real dickbag if I pulled off the worst commentator's jinx of my life. I think we'll try and find a replay to see who that was pulling off the rally action running wide through turn number 10. That's another hard corner as well. So we're going to take a look at Stevie Ray, who I think has had a series of off tracks. Could be the reason why Justice is running effectively in no man's land. Is heading through turn number 3. A little bit of a slide mid corner. Some rally action there, kicking up the dust again as well. So as I said earlier on, by the end of this race, it's going to be very, very dusty once again off the track, heading through turn number 4. I think he's going to be a sitting duck to, I believe that's Tarantino right behind. Look to get the move done down the inside of turn number 5, and then does Stevie Ray go off the track here? He doesn't go off through turn number 5 there, so I think we may that was well, it was not ideal for Stevie Ray, not an ideal series of corners, and he's lost the back of Josh Justice. It's currently 2.5 seconds separating those drivers, so I think Josh Justice may have the most boring seat in the house right now. Christian Kabanka doesn't, as he slotted his way back into P number 5. So we said that a top 5 spot was going to be not out of the question for Kabanka. I wouldn't rule out a podium at this rate.
It maybe not, and that was, you know, he's already made that move to the inside a couple of times. This time he's going to hang it to the outside and make this pass really well executed. Gets a good run up the hill, comes up beside Tarantino. Just late brake. Ooh, that was so close. Tarantino on the brakes, kind of straightened the car up a little bit, but nicely done by Kabanka.
I said earlier on in this broadcast, I think we need a new nickname for Christian Kabanka, Smooth Move Kabanka, because that was an incredibly smooth move heading into the corkscrew. We're going to take a look at another angle, this time the aerial shot from the helicopter. Christian Kabanka, just looking at that, that is poetry in motion right there. Christian Kabanka, beautiful move so far in this race, it must be said. He has made up the most amount of spots of anyone, and really, it's not even close. He's up 10 spots. Meanwhile, Stevie Ray right up in front of him. He may try and dispatch him. Stevie Ray, as it stands, currently up 3. Christian Kabanka is going to try and make that 2 for Stevie and 11 for himself, but he's run a little bit wide heading through turn number 5 there. They're going to be side by side heading into 6 now. Stevie Ray clears him and gives him a little bit of a bump draft in that small little flat out blast between turns 5 and 6, but Christian Kabanka now firmly into the double digits there, up 11 spots from where he started. Now this man Josh Justice, who's a little bit farther up the road, is going to be the next target for Christian Kabanka, and those two currently separated by about trying to do the math in my head. That is 3
seconds.
seconds between those drivers. You can tell I was always great at math class, but that is definitely not an insurmountable gap with 9 minutes still left to go in this race.
No, it's not. And I think if Stevie's going to just try and hang back there, maybe harass Christian a little bit, if he can just manage to hang on to the draft here, should be able to tighten that up. And you never can tell. Because Stevie's going to race. I mean, he's not just going to roll over. You saw the action where he was basically bump drafting coming up to the kink last lap. So he's not going to make it easy, as we see Tarantino looking to the inside, thinks better of that move, and just kind of hangs out, says we'll reset and try it again.
We'll see if Tarantino can get the move done here in a couple of, we'll see if he can get the move done between now and the end of this race. He may get it done in a couple corners time, because Tarantino has been feeling quite racy as of late. He only put on a move on Stevie Ray heading through turn number 5 not very long ago, after Stevie had that series of off-track incidents. So we'll see Tarantino maybe trying to sneak a wheel down the inside there. Stevie ran a little bit wide, and now they're going to be side by side heading into turn number 6. Tarantino has that inside line. Who is going to back out of this? And they make contact heading through that corner, and Stevie Ray bops himself off the track there. He's going to take an excursion through the gravel, and is going to drop well down the running order, now down to P number 9. It's a small little bit of contact heading through that corner. There's many corners on this racetrack where you can go side by side. Turn number 6, definitely not one of them, and those two drivers proving it quite nicely there.
Nope, that's what I always say, don't pass in the kink. And it's why. It's because it's a fast corner. It's really only one lane. There are 2 lanes there, but realistically, the way these cars flow, it's really one lane. And as you see, contact made right before they got to the apex, pushed Stevie wide. Could have been a lot worse. Luckily, both cars were continuing on. Stevie didn't lose some time, obviously, so he's going to have some work to do to pick up a few of those spots back.
And look at these two, Justin Huffman and Miles Crabb. They're still separated by basically nothing heading into turn number 3 on this lap. And we just saw that Miles Crabb has the fastest lap of this race by quite a decent margin. He's in the 134 brackets. Meanwhile, Justin Huffman, the leader of this race, who has led pretty much from lights to flags so far, we'll see if he can hold on to that lead in the final 6.5 minutes of this race. But Justin Huffman, in terms of fastest laps, he is quite slow compared to Miles Crabb. These two still the class of the field right now, but they're close. They are incredibly close. We'll see what Miles Crabb does when it comes to trying to take the lead of this race. Part of the reason why he's been so much faster is just because he's had that slipstream benefit here at this track. We mentioned earlier on that there's no real disproportionately long straightaways around this circuit, and like tracks like Homestead that we visited 1 week ago, where pretty much the final third of the circuit is spent entirely flat out. Here is a little bit different. You're off the gas a lot more, but you are still benefiting from that slipstream. Miles Crabb, he spent pretty much this entire race inside Justin Huffman's coattails, so we'll see if Miles Crabb will get a move done here in the not too distant future. He may hold off on this a little bit. We'll see if they try and go side by side heading into turn number 2. Justin Huffman feeling the pressure. Miles Crabb smelling blood in the water going into turn number 2 right now. And I think they are going to stay fairly line astern at the beginning of lap number 10 here. Charles, if you were Miles Crabb in this fight, would you try and force the issue now, or would you actually wait a little bit?
I think if I'm riding behind him for the last 15 minutes or so of this race, obviously Huffman's doing a really good job of just running defensive line when he needs to. As he's about to answer my question for me, no, just kind of backs out. I think he's just kind of waiting until the last minute. I think that's probably what I would try and do is try and time it. If he thought he was legitimately faster and he could just pull away once he got in front, I'd probably make that move earlier. But it seems like maybe Huffman's fast lap maybe had an off track or something. So or his timing and scoring not really representative of how fast he's actually driving. Because he seems like he's able to stay out in front and at least can dictate the pace a little bit, and is not really he's not really that much slower than Crabb, as to what our timing and scoring screen says by 0.8 of a second. So I think Crabb's probably going to just kind of wait, bide his time, and make his move on the last lap.
And we'll see if Miles Crab has managed his tires so far in this race. 20 laps in a spec racer Ford. The tires won't be worn down to the cords. However, you'll definitely start feeling the burn even after only 20 minutes of racing action. Has Miles Crab managed his tires? Will he have the rubber left on those tires to go for an all-out assault in the final stages of this race? We'll just have to wait and see. From my perspective, I feel like if I were Miles Crab, I would try and wait a little bit as well. From my experience autocrossing for the 10 years that I was doing it, I always preferred being the last car to run just because I didn't want my competitors to have any sort of counter to whatever run I was going to put out there. But right now we're switching our attention to the battle for the final podium position. We mentioned how Christian Kabanka had a 3-second gap to close between himself and Josh Justice when he got the move done on Stevie Ray a couple of laps ago. Well, he has closed up that gap. You can see pace-wise, Kabanka in the 134.8 range, Justice in the 135.8 range. So that is a pretty big pace discrepancy between those two. So Josh Justice, I think he may have cooked those tires a little bit because, as you can see from the fastest laps as well, he was in the 134.6s compared to Kabanka's 134.7s. So I think even though it's only 0.03 of a second separating those two in terms of their fastest laps of the race so far, I think Justice may have cooked those tires in the early stages of this race. He's starting to feel the burn, and that gap is about 1.5 heading through turn number 10. You can see him fighting for the air. Fighting for the clean air is huge at a track like this, and now Kabanka going through his favorite corner, turn number 11, trying to go around the outside. That is bold stuff from Kabanka. It looked like it nearly was going to pay off for him. However, he's now in the draft. He's going to have a monumental run heading into turn number 1. They're going to be side by side. Crab and Huffman are side by side as well. I feel bad for our producer Josh, who has to look at 14 bajillion different things at once. Kabanka on the outside, Justice on the inside. Josh Justice is going to prevail in that fight, as did Justin Huffman. They're briefly side by side heading through the Andretti hairpin at the start of lap number 12. We have 2 minutes left to go here. I think the elbows are going to bust out here very, very soon.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's time to move it or lose it, if you want to use that term. Yeah, it's just, Justice did a really good job. He saw that, I guess, as Kabanka was making his way up, noticed that he was taking that inside, closed that line off at the final corner, made Kabanka go around to the outside, and was able to hold the spot.
This is going to be an action-packed later stages of this race. We've got the battle for the final podium position where the two drivers are separated by about 0.2 of a second. Is Kabanka going to go for it heading into the corkscrew? It definitely looked like he was going to try pull off a similar move that he did on Tarantino not very long ago. However, he's focusing on that exit heading through turn number 9. Rainy curve right now. Kabanka still very close. He is within striking distance, has been for quite some time, even trying to go for a switchback. Will he try and pull off the move heading through turn number 11 here, looking for the outside battle, the last late breakers? Who is going to prevail? Is it going to be Justice? Is it going to be Kabanka? Kabanka running off the track, running the risk of picking up a slowdown. These two now side by side, Kabanka on the inside, and meanwhile at the front, Crab and Huffman are going side by side, and Crab is going to stick it around the outside, much closer there. However, Huffman with the advantage of being able to close that door on the outside, he is still going to prevail. Meanwhile, Justice has lost out in that fight to Christian Kabanka. It felt like a matter of when, not if, that those two were finally going to be single file, with Kabanka now occupying that final podium position. They are on the white flag here, so we have not a whole lot of time left to go here, obviously, and Miles Crab knows that as he's trying to go for the move heading into turn number 5, being and banging before they go into the braking zone for that corner. These drivers fear no death, and they also race each other as hard as they can. No quarter given, no quarter expected from any of these drivers. Miles Crab, he doesn't have a whole lot of opportunities left to go. It's really just the corkscrew, maybe turn number 9 or 10 if you're feeling exceptionally bold, or turn number 11. Crab really needs to focus on the final few corners of this race. Meanwhile, Kabanka and Justice going side by side yet again. Justice trying to go around the outside of the corkscrew. Now he's got to have the inside line heading through the second part there. They're still side by side, going to be beating and banging heading through turn number 9 there. Kabanka on the inside. Justice Justice on the outside. They're still going to be side by side heading into turn number 10. Right now, Cabanca sweeps around, and meanwhile at the front, it was too little too late for Miles Crab, just not enough to get the job done here. He's still going to end up in P2 right behind our winner of this race, that being Justin Huffman. And Christian Cabanca with a fantastic drive. He started this race in 15th. He's going to end it in P3 with an incredible fight between himself and Josh Justice. Christian Cabanca is going to round out the podium in third. And man, Charles, a little bit, well, I can't say I'm disappointed. That was still a nice fight at the front of the field, but Cabanca and Justice bringing some smoke here at Laguna Seca.
Absolutely. Great battles for the top 4 positions. Yeah, it was a great job by Huffman, just running a defensive line. This was a great battle between Justice and Cabanca. Justice just did not want to give that spot up. It fought him for tooth and nail, basically from about turn 5 actually the whole last lap. We'll just call it that. And it was, great. It was a good setup by Cabanca. He actually jumped to the inside right coming out of the final corner to prevent Justice from getting that, taking the inside line away from him. And just a great job by all the drivers up front.
This was a little bit farther behind. This was a fight between Brewster and Spolman towards the end of this race. We were so preoccupied up towards the front of the field, we didn't note this battle. It's a 3-car fight heading through turn number 5. Spolman on the inside, and Scott Russell nearly making it 3 wide there on corner exit. He will be making it 3 wide. Man, my voice is giving out already. And that's a little bit of contact there between Spolman and Russell heading through turn at number 6. Turn number 6, I think, is without a doubt the hardest corner on this racetrack. It has that killer curb on the inside.
Oh, no.
No forgiving on the outside, and that was more contact heading through into the corkscrew. And that's, I have to take a look at another angle to see exactly what happened there between Spolman and Russell. That looked fairly avoidable. We'll see again another angle, this time from the outside. We were following Brewster. He must have looked at that in his rearview mirror. I felt very comfortable, and it's and that was a big hit for Andrew Wozencroft as well. Had nowhere to go. They were trying to negotiate. Those 2 cars stopped in the middle of the racing groove, but tough incident to say there. Well, just hard racing towards the end, ends and blows.
Yeah, it looked like it was maybe a late block by Spolman during this battle. He was trying to just keep Russell back. Russell had the run, the draft, and I think just came back over just too late. And then obviously track block, nowhere for Wozencroft to go, and except to T-bone Spolman. I also noticed that Mr. Stevie Ray also reconfigured his car at some point in time in the last couple of laps. So we may have to see if we can find a replay of that as well.
To go for that NASCAR modified layout there, and nearly getting some air heading through turn number 9. Stevie Ray racing with it looks like complete reckless abandon, just deciding to say, nope, I'm not going to say anything here. And Stevie Ray there, that's when he still had a front end of his race car, and that was a spin for Brewster. And yeah, another wheelie from Stevie Ray 2 weeks in a row. He had a wheelie after trying to bump draft with Christian Cabanca last week at Homestead, and it happens yet again, this time heading through the corkscrew. That another angle here, and that's and Bank there goes, and it just boinked off of that car. It looked like a badly put together like toy that you'd get from a drugstore. That was actually no, a toy you'd get from a Happy Meal, more like that. I think we've had some great racing from this series so far this season, must be said, but we also get some strange incidents from time to time, this being one of them. And just I guess the front clip of Steve Ray's car just decided to give up. Oh, that is goofy. I think before we laugh our ears off at that very strange moment for Stevie Ray and the front clip deciding to go to the mothership, I think we got some drivers in the interview waiting area looking to have a chat with us. So Charles, who do you like to have a chat with after this race?
Let's talk to our race winner, and we have confirmation it is Jamison Huffman, who is actually in the car, I guess under his dad's account. So see if we can get him up here and we'll give him a talk. Jamison, congratulations, great race. It was basically a 20-minute battle between you and Miles Crab from start to finish.
Thank you.
So from your perspective, talk about your battle with Miles there.
Yeah, it was just kind of stay out in front. I was getting a little bit fatigued at the end, a little bit tired of running the same course, but I was just trying to hold on. When he started making moves, it kind of brought me back into it. But it was really just try and keep track position, because at this track I know you can pretty much fight every corner. So
yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of what we saw during the race. Is this one of your more favorite courses, or is it just because it's one of the free content? You just run a lot of laps here.
It's definitely one of my more favorite tracks out there. I really want to run here in real life at some point, but SCCA doesn't go here too often anymore. But I do love this track. I run it a lot on sim.
Well, cool. Well, congratulations, and we'll look forward to seeing. Are you going to be in the next race?
Yep, I'm running V's.
All right. Well, we'll see you in the next race.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
That was Jameson Huffman. We'll give him the opportunity to practice for that car, and we'll bring in Miles Crabb, the other side of that fight, have a quick little chat with him before we wrap things up from the Spec Racer Ford race. Miles, that was action-packed from your perspective, the other side of that fight with Jameson Huffman all throughout this race. Talk us through that there.
Yeah, it was a good, clean fight. I was kind of conservative, just hanging on to his coattails, trying to find a spot, because Jameson's really good. I've learned my lesson. I'm not going to qualify and talk. So yeah, it was a great little battle. I tried to send around the outside to get the inside for the two right-handers. I was there. I wasn't willing to run him off the road. And then I thought I got him deep enough in the 5 that he had missed it and I could over under it. And, I either didn't downshift enough, or he nailed it and pulled away. And I lifted off the brakes and pulled a Zanardi through the corkscrew trying to catch back up. And he got just the tiniest better run out of Rainey than me. And I couldn't quite dive bomb him into the last corner.
Despite the fact you finished second in this race, which may sting a teeny tiny bit, you entered this race with the points lead in the Spec Racer Ford category, I do believe. So with only one more SRF race before the runoffs, fairly confident in sealing the deal with the championship this season?
I don't know. I show up to win. My motto is the best points that you can have is the lead every lap, have the fastest lap, and win the race. So that's kind of what I show up trying to do. I have yet to win a runoffs, though, which is so annoying. It's like winning the Super Tour, but not winning the runoffs. So I would trade a season championship for a runoffs victory.
Well, to the viewers watching this stream here on Apex Racing TV, if that doesn't show you a true racer's mindset, I really don't know what does. Miles, congratulations on the nice result. I will say P2 not too bad after 20 minutes of racing action, and we'll let you go and qualify that Formula car, so good luck in that race we have coming up.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm probably not going to beat Jake, so I'm going to do my thank yous now. So hi, Mom. Hi, Jessica. Hi, Steven. Look, I got your names in the right order, so I didn't say Stephanie because my brain is fried because I'm qualifying a car. And also, hey, Ren, sorry I wasn't able to dive bomb and then knock him off the road to win the race like you said to do in the text message. But thank you all for broadcasting. Thank you, Stevie, for all the work he puts into this. And it'll be a fun little Ford race trying to not kill any Vs.
That is going to be a very exciting race that we have coming up for you. We'll let you go and qualify that car. Thank you for joining us, Miles Crabb. Good luck in that race we have coming up.
Thank you.
That was Miles Crabb, the other side of that awesome fight in the Spec Racer Fords. And as Miles said himself, along with us hyping up the Formula car action we have coming up for you in just a couple of moments' time, that race is going to be nuts. Formula Vs and Formula Fords on this wonderful race circuit in sunny California. Stay tuned here on Apex Racing TV because that race is going to be fun.
Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
Motion is not only the sponsor of the official Formula 1600 series here on iRacing, but is a proud partner of the Formula 1600s here on the Ray Esports Racing League. The Formula 1600s make up the one half of the Formula cars that we have in store for us. The second half of this broadcast here tonight. We hope you enjoyed those messages that we had for in that small little 5-minute break where we were switching over here to this session. To have this great racing week in and week out, you need to have some fantastic sponsors. We've talked about the two of them so far on this broadcast so far. The Personal Wealth Solutions that we talked about earlier, the great partner that we have on the Spec Racer Ford side of things. I just mentioned the Formula Ford sponsor that we had, and you heard the messages from Sim Motion as well. And when it comes to the Formula Vs, which put on heart-pumping action every single time they're on Apex Racing TV here for this series, puts on some great shows, and to put on these great shows, we have some great sponsors as well. For the Formula Vs, that is trailbreak.com. In the world of racing, telemetry is important in understanding your car and your driving, hence why many people in the market take their butts on over to trailbreak.com. Trailbreak has been in the racing data world since 2000. Considering that's 4 years older than myself, I can vouch that's more than enough time for them to build a fantastic catalog of products. Whether you're in the world of karting, autocross, road racing, hill climbs, track days, whatever it may be, trailbreak.com has something to help you go faster. To shop or just explore the wonderful offers that they have on their website, head on over to trailbreak.com. Trailbreak.com is a sponsor of the Formula Vs and a proud partner of the Ray Esports Racing League. And now, Charles, we're heading into this race. We don't have a whole lot of time left to go in this qualifying session. The Formula Fords, a little bit smaller compared to the Formula Vs of Formula Vs. It's just an absolute hornet's nest of race cars. They put on great shows week in and week out, and we saw some pretty good racing the last time the Formula cars were running here back at the very start of Season 10, all the way back in December of 2023. And I can vouch that was a very nuts race. So coming into these formulas here for the second half of tonight's racing festivities, what are your thoughts going into this?
It's the Formula V's always have a good showing good group of guys out there racing, and they'll race hard and tight for the entire event. And it's going to come down to the multi-class aspect of this. You've got 3 Formula Fords that are going to have to work their way through at some point in time. Just hopefully they catch them in open areas that they can everybody can kind of work together and get passes made. But yeah, it's probably going to be a knockdown drag out in the Formula V class, and probably come down to the last couple corners of the last lap just before we settle it.
As we mentioned earlier on, we are coming to crunch time here, not only this qualifying session as the checkered flag just came out, we're coming to crunch time when it comes to the season as well. After tonight, there's only one more Formula race left to go, so I think we'll take a look at the standings in both the Formula Ford and the Formula V categories, because we've got some close championship fights in both of those classics. We'll load them up for you. Not those classics, the classes, and we'll load those up for you. Right now, it's Jake King, who's been a standout star in the Formula Fords. He leads it, 96 points on the board over Miles Crabbe there in P number 2, only 82 points. That's a pretty big gap to Zach Rivard, the reigning Formula Ford champion. He will not repeat as champion from the Ray Esports Racing League. However, the fight between King and Crabbe is going to be close. And moving over to Formula Vs, which have been chaotic, exciting, and awesome to watch as well. It's Andrew Wozencroft, the California kid in the number 80 car, leading them, only 2 points ahead of Corey Heffron there in P number 2. Michelle Lynn in P3, a little bit farther back as well. I say a little bit farther back, only 3 points off of Heffron in second, and only 5 off of the lead. Tied with Jim Brewster as well, who's in P number 4, and Josh Justice will round out the top 5 in that Formula V category. That Formula V class is absolutely nuts. It brings on great racing week in and week out, and even though this track isn't as much of a slipstream carnival as we've seen from tracks like Homestead or even the New Hampshire Roval that we saw a couple of weeks ago, this race is still going to be very, very intense. With a close qualifying session that we're going to be reaching the end of here in just a couple of moments' time. Predicting that Formula V race is like trying to predict the weather. It's just you're never going to get a right prediction here, will you, Charles?
No, I don't think so. I think that there's a lot of really, really quality Formula V drivers out here, and it's always tight racing every race. And so Huffman's had a good run, but he's only a 10th up on Wozencroft. So we'll see if those guys will hang together. And Jacob Schilling's only a 100th of a second back, so it's going to be one of those really tight races where they're all just kind of packed together until somebody makes a mistake, and that'll cause some natural breaks in it. But there's enough straightaway here that might keep that pack tighter that much longer. You just never know. So it's going to be a fun race. I'm looking forward to calling it.
So we're going to get the results from this qualifying session for you. We're going to get the starting grid, which is exactly the same. There's a reason why it's called the qualifying session. We'll get the starting grid for you in just a couple of moments' time. In the Formula Fords, it's going to be Jake King leading them to green. Miles Crabbe will be starting alongside him on the front row. Those two separated by second in that qualifying session. Stevie Ray is going to be in third, and Krisha Kabanka, very similar to what he did in the Spec Racer Fords, is going to be starting at the tail end of the Formula Fords after not setting a time in the qualifying session. A little bit small in that Formula Ford category, but in the Vs, it is packed.
Yeah, for sure. Jamison Huffman starting on pole. Andrew Wozencroft in second. Jacob Schilling, Josh Justice round out row 2. Michelle Lynn and Jim Brewster on row 3. And we'll scroll down through there. Andrew Love in 7th. Seth Bowman in 8th. Wayne Buttermore in 9th. Mark Sherman in 10th. Joaquin Effinger and Gary Kittle did not set times, and they'll start on the back row. That's your 12-car grid for the Formula Vs.
This race is going to be hectic. That's the only word I feel like we could use to describe it. 20 minutes as well. So that pace discrepancy between the Formula Vs and the Formula Fords is going to be put on full display. I'll fact check myself here real quick to see exactly what the difference was in terms of the pace between our pole sitter in the Formula Vs, Jamison Huffman. I saw Justin Huffman there, and I just read it out like that. Jamison Huffman is actually the driver behind the wheel. He set a 1 minute 42.117 in that qualifying session to snag that Formula Ford pole. But then Jake King, who's going to be starting this race from overall pole in the Formula Fords, set a 1 minute 30.227. So about 12 seconds separating both of these categories. So lap traffic is going to play a pretty big role in the race that we have coming up.
Yeah, and sooner than you expect, because Christian Kabanka did not set a qualifying time. He's starting behind the Formula V, so he's going to have to work his way through the field at the start of the race.
Oh, that's going to be a big wrench thrown in the works for these Formula V drivers, having to deal with an angry Formula Ford, which feels like you're being tailed by a Formula One car while running in a go-kart. If you're one of these Formula V, seeing a Formula Ford come up in your rear view mirror. So Christian Kabanka is going to be providing a threatening aura for a lot of the Formula V drivers that we have coming up in this race. So there's a little bit of separation as well, separating these two classes. These are the Formula Fords, and unlike we saw in the spec race of Fords, the Porsche pace car instead of the Mustang pace car is going to make that turn to come down pit road. The field is now in the hands of Jake King. A very disorganized start, it must be said, in the Formula Fords, and the lights are going to come out. The green flag is going to come out, and the drivers are now on their way. They got their act together and packed up quite a lot, but Jake King is going to be leading them to green. And meanwhile, we already have 4 wide action in the Formula Vs. We said it was going to be nuts, and we're seeing it right now. Oh my God, the 4 wide heading into turn number 2 on lap 1. I'll be shocked if they get through this clean. Puffs of smoke and some drivers making contact. I think that was a love tap that Andrew Rosencroft received heading through the hairpin of turn number 2. But surprisingly so, after going 4 wide, they managed to keep it clean. You can see Christian Kabanka running there. It's sticking out quite a lot there. It's like a 5th grader and a pack of 3rd graders seeing a Formula Ford car in the midst of the Formula Vs, but he's already cut through most of them. I think Christian Kabanka may have been part of the reason why they're going 4 wide at the very start, trying to form some sort of roadblock heading down through the Andretti hairpin of turn number 2. But at the very front of the field, it's Jake King leading them, Miles Crab in P at number 2, and Stevie Ray falling back a teeny tiny bit. I will say, the last time Miles Crab was not confident in his chances heading into a race, which I believe was New Hampshire a couple weeks ago, he went on to win that race, or at least finish on the podium, if I'm very not mistaken. So I think Miles Crab may be doing some reverse mind tricks on his competitors, and he may pull a rabbit out of his hat and challenge Jake King quite a lot in this race.
Yeah, I think he will. He'll talk himself down a little bit, but yeah, he'll put up a fight. Jake King's obviously a very good Formula Ford racer. I think he drives this in real life as well. And so, yeah, he'll absolutely do his best to try and stay with him. As I thought it was funny, I was watching the start, and Christian Kabanka moved immediately to the inside to try and work his way around all the cars on the start-finish straight, and they just blocked him. So they just went 4 wide and just blocked him and held him back there. Said, I guess that's what you get for not qualifying. So held him in check there until they got out of turn 3, and he's able to make a move and start passing cars.
We're already seeing a whole bunch of drivers shuffle for positions. We're riding on board with Michelle Lynn, who got caught out by that start quite a lot there. She's down to P number 8, nearly making contact with Seth Spolman heading through turn number 3 there. And I mentioned she got hurt by that a little bit, down 4 spots from where she started. Not ideal for the driver of the number 44 car, but she'll try and find her way up through the field. That is for darn sure. Meanwhile, at the front of the Formula V's, it's a 3-car peloton beginning to pull away with Josh Justice, Jameson Huffman, and Andrew Rosencroft. It's Huffman and Justice going side by side, heading through turn number 6 there. That was very close, and that could have ended in tears if they were in a car that was any bigger than these Formula V's are. Andrew Rosencroft thought about giving Josh Justice a bump draft there, heading down towards the corkscrew, but they're pulling away a little bit from Jacob Schilling there in P number 4. So I guess teamwork kind of helping out in these Formula V's right now. It's a little bit surprising, because usually when it comes to the Formula V races, until you get to the halfway mark around that 10-minute barrier, it's just a massive hornet's nest. But right now we're seeing these drivers start to break away a teeny tiny bit, as now Rosencroft is looking to challenge back on Justice.
Yeah, it was a good move to the inside by Rosencroft there to go ahead and take that spot back over. And yeah, as long as they stay in line like this, they'll be able to just kind of pull a gap on the next group, led by Schilling but he's got Brewster Love right on his tail, so he's going to pick up the pace, or he's going to get. They're going to be challenging, as I see already. Looks like Brewster's already trying to challenge him for that spot. Yep, taking it to the inside there to make that move around.
This is a pretty good race so far. Brewster is putting on a nice show, up to P4 in that 9:33 car. I'll take a look at my live time screen. He's currently up 1 spot compared to Cabank. Well, Cabank is up 10, but that's kind of a little bit iffy considering he started in the midst of the Formula Vs. But we're going to be taking a look at Cabanca's view. This is going to be a golden camera angle at the very start of this race. You're going to see the 4-wide action right in front of them. Cabanca trying to cut through the field like a hot knife through butter. Got blocked off a little bit there heading through. I think that was Seth Spolman that blocked him off there. If you're Christian Cabanca looking at this, 7 cars separated by about like 20 feet on the racetrack, what do you even do in a situation like that? So he just had to bide his time, wait for them to single file out, then he's going to use that power of that Formula Ford, the extra horsepower of this Formula Ford, which is not the most powerful race car in the world, to blow their metaphorical doors off. And you can just see in the span of only 1 or 2 corners, he just blew by most of them. So Christian Cabanca dispatched most of the Formula V traffic very, very quickly with not a whole lot of skin off his back with it either.
Yeah, he did a great job, and it just went off the track. So you know what? I've got enough power that the slowdown from the dirt won't hurt very much, and I'll use that. I'll eat those off tracks and just get through this field and charge back up. And he's already caught up to Stevie Ray, who's running in third. They're about 7 seconds off of pole. And Christian Cabanca set the fastest lap of the race last lap with a 1:30.66. So 0.6 of a second faster than King.
And now we may see Smooth Move Cabanca go for a smooth move on series admin Stevie Ray. They're separated by barely any air, nearly making contact heading into the corkscrew. That would not have been an ideal incident to make contact with the series admin. Cabanca is incredibly fast at the moment. He's going to slot his way into the podium position at some point. It's just a matter of when he'll do it and where he's going to pull off the move. His favorite corner, the final corner, turn at number 11 down the inside. Battle last late breakers get a little bit sideways mid-corner, but Cabanca pulls off that move in fairly commanding fashion. Now it's going to be an uphill fight to close that gap to this man Miles Crabb to possibly slot his way into P at number 2. We're over 6, coming up to 6.5 minutes into this race, and Jay King starting to pull away with that gap he has in the championship. He may be able to seal the deal tonight. Of course, not going to speculate on that without knowing how exactly the numbers would shake out, but Jay King feeling very comfortable at the front of the Formula Fords, at the very front end of the field. However, with the lap traffic they'll have to deal with very, very soon, that 1.1 second gap that those two are separated by right now could diminish in the matter of just a few seconds.
Ooh, that was just a really, really bad exit there by Huffman. And now Wozencroft's got to run to the inside. It's like Justin is going to follow him. And then Andrew Love is actually called and taken the lead over Brewster in that second group. So it's now Love, Brewster, Schilling in 4th, 5th, and 6th.
Ooh, 3 wide heading into the Andretti hairpin of turn number 2. Wozencroft was in the middle of that and nearly went for the 2-for-1 as well. Actually, no, that was Huffman. My apologies. That was in the midst of that. It looked like he was going about a bajillion miles an hour too fast for the Andretti hairpin. However, he stuck to it and is slotted in P2 right now. We've compared races, whether it be in the spec race Fords or whether it be in the Formula Vs, to being a 100-mile-an-hour game of leapfrog. These cars, I don't think, could surpass 100 miles an hour unless they're on the back straightaway at the Nordschleife or were chucked off a cliff. But still a pretty quick game of leapfrog for all of these drivers, even for the positions outside of the podium places. This fight between Love, Brewster, and Schilling is very close, as well as Michelle Lynn and Spolman right behind them as well. So in the Formula Vs, that draft, even at this track, which is not too slipstream heavy, it's not a slipstream marketplace, unlike some other circuits that we visited so far this season, the slipstream is still creating a massive leapfrog effect here.
Yeah, it is, but the bigger effect is actually these guys just saw Huffman make a pass on Wozencroft going into the corkscrew, and that gave that second group about a 4/10 jump in time, just from those cars up front, battling through corners. And so now it's about to become a 6-car battle, and the more they keep doing that, it's going to keep drawing more and more cars in. You see Lynn and Spolman just kind of hanging back there in the background, waiting for the next set of passes to be made, as you see here with Justice and Wozencroft side by side coming down into turn 2.
Ooh, who's going to get the move done? Who's going to have to drop back? It's looking like Justice is going to clear him heading into the Andretti hairpin on this lap. We're not even halfway through, and we've already seen easily a double-digit amount of overtakes just between the top 3 in the Formula V category. So this is going to be a nuts race between now and the checkered flag. Michelle Lynn she's definitely not out of it. A 1.8-second gap to Jacob Schilling there in P number 6. So she has a little bit of work if she wants to reel in that 3-car trio who's trying to reel in the 3-car trio farther up the road. However, it is not out of the realm of possibilities. Ooh, is Michelle Lynn actually running a little bit wide? That would have been the worst commentator jinx in my life if she just speared off the circuit and went into the wall. But Michelle Lynn keeps it going in a straight line, lost a little bit of time, and may lose a position here to Seth Spolman, who's pulled out to try and get the move done. They're going to be side by side heading into the corkscrew here. Lynn on the inside, Spolman on the outside, and Spolman clears them heading into the braking zones. And nicely played from both of those drivers to get through that corner nice and clean without losing a whole lot of time. They only lost 2/10 in their side-by-side shenanigans going through the corkscrew, and we're going to take a look at a replay of some stuff that was going on farther up the road. We're following Andrew Love in the 945 car, and I think he gets a move done on Brewster. Has that powerful slipstream as they go down the right haul straight away towards the back end of the circuit. Clears them heading into the corkscrew, so nicely played from Love.
Yeah, it was a nice move. Just got the run through the kink and was able to carry that momentum up the hill and into the corkscrew, make the pass. As we see Brewster now making his way back around, and this is not the way to catch back up to the front group, guys. You need to be staying in line and just kind of working together here for a lap or two. As we've got 9 minutes left in the race, you've got a chance to get up there and battle for something higher than 4th if you just kind of do a little working together, because it's like these guys up front are just going to kind of continue to fight for the rest of the race.
A little bit of teamwork would help those drivers, help out Brewster, Schilling, and Love, but hey, they're racers. They're going to be battling tooth and nail no matter what position it is. As a broadcaster, you love to see it, but it'd also be nice to see a 6-car pack battling for the win for the second to last Formula race of this season 11 of the Ray Esports Racing League. We're riding on board with Justice, as it looks like he's going to try and go side by side with Huffman heading into the corkscrew. Huffman on the inside, big lock up there heading into the corner, but Jamison Huffman still pulls off the move and holds off the challenge from Justice, still in the lead of this race. This is going to be tense. However, I yield the caution to the last time the Ray Esports Racing League ran here at it's not Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca, WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. There was a 3-car incident with the Formula V drivers that were running at the very north end of the field, and it happened towards the end of the race going through the corkscrew. So I think these drivers may want to yield that warning and take that into consideration, because if not, they're going to be in for a world of trouble. Jake King is going to be in a world of trouble. He's negotiated the lap traffic and has lost out on a whole lot of time. Miles Grab now within a 10th and a half of Jake King, who's led ever since we dropped the green flag 12 and a half minutes ago. They're dealing with the lap traffic in the one and only time of this race. Ooh, I think Miles Crab may get hurt by that a little bit. We'll see how Jake King and how Miles Crab negotiate Huffman, Justice, and Wozencroft, but I think Jake King, going through that early Formula V traffic, lost out on a whole lot of time because that gap cratered.
Yeah, it did, and even more so, Cabanca is now 4 seconds behind those guys and has been setting fast lap after fast lap. So he is on the charge, and he's going to try and do everything he can to get up to fight for the overall win in that after starting behind the Formula Vs. Incredible bit of driving by Cabanca.
That is absolutely fantastic. Will he get caught up at the lap traffic, though? Ooh, it's going to be very close heading in through the corkscrew. Managed to overtake Wozencroft. That's broken him away from Justice and Huffman. He clears him heading through turn number 9 of Rainy Curve. But Cabanca, again, very, very impressive. That Spec Racer Ford performance to start that race in 15th, end up in the final podium position, and it wasn't like that. It wasn't like that result just fell into his lap either. He had to work for it. So I think Christian Cabanca, even though there's only 4 cars in that Formula V category, the fact he's still within 5 seconds of the leader, Jake King, is very impressive, considering Cabanca has had to deal with those Formula Vs not once like the 2 running farther up the road to him. Cabanca's had to deal with most of the Formula V cars twice. So the fact he's still within striking distance of those drivers is very, very impressive.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's basically gave those the rest of the Formula Ford field a 15-second head start, and he's just made up the stagger just by sheer pace. And it's just, like I said, a fantastic drive by Cabanca. And we're still getting battles up at the front of this field. It looks like they're trying to tighten things up. Looks like Schilling's back up to the front of that second pack, and the gap's now under a second. So we may end up having a 6-car battle here. And Stevie Ray's going to get himself in the mix here as well, and that might shake things up even more.
Well, the SDK Gaming graphics have deemed this as a 6-car fight, because usually if it's north of a second, you see the white graphics. However, the gap between Justice and Schilling, it just, right as I say that, goes back over a second. So iRacing trying to prove me wrong as Stevie Ray blows her doors off, heading into the corkscrew. That is very quick. It was a little bit comedic there, and that was nearly contact between Justice and Huffman heading through that corkscrew, but this pack has closed up dramatically. That gap between Justice and Schilling is only a half a second, so it was a 3-car fight. Now it is a 6-car pack, a 6-car brawl, and it's only going to get more heated between now and the end of this. Stevie Ray's going to pull away. He wants nothing to do with the chaos that's going to ensue right behind him. The front 6 in the Formula V category have broken away as a gap between Love, who's a tail of that 6-car peloton, and to Spolman in 7th is a 3.5 seconds. So it looks like it's going to remain a 6-car fight unless something major happens here. Rosencroft taking that defensive line down the inside, and Jacob Schilling taking the that is not a defensive line by any way, shape, or form, defending the sand on the outside. That's all he did, as he lost out on multiple positions and dropped down to P number 6. So Andrew Love benefited from that. But with that, the gap yet again increasing between Justice and Bruce, who's now running in P number 4. I think that's going to fluctuate. These drivers, it's kind of like hitting a plateau. We'll have to see if that gap can really close up, and then we're going to have a huge fight on our hands.
Yeah, for sure. It looked like Schilling just basically locked the tires coming down into the hairpin and just had to basically just kind of float out to the outside and let everybody go and just kind of get the car settled down, and so you could get back up in there. And yeah, just these group up front, they're just getting a little bit of a gap, and then they're fighting for position, and then that gap just goes away. And so that gap that's now a second and a half will be probably, coming down. And so as long as the car's behind, like I said, they just got to stay in line. But I think they're having a good time just racing each other. So they're not really concerned about trying to make it up. And they'll say, you know what, we'll settle things amongst ourselves. We'll let those guys battle for the podiums, and we'll all have a good race, and we'll enjoy it and get ready for the next one next week.
I think Love, Brewster, and Schilling at this stage are very happy with the position they're running in, because with how hard these three have been battling and how hard they're still battling, they could come to blows, and the likes of Love, Brewster, and Schilling behind could be there to pick up the pieces. Bump drafting in Formula V's, that is a bold technique. Justice on the outside, Huffman on the inside. Who's going to be the one winning out in this fight? Now Rosencroft is looking to dispatch of Justice to move back into second place. Again, it's been a game of leapfrog here at the front of the field in the Formula V's. Yeah, the gap in the Formula Fords is still pretty close as well, despite the fact they don't have to deal with any sort of lap traffic between now and the end of it. Jake King and Miles Crap are still separated by less than 0.2 of a second, with Cabanca closing in as well, only 3.5 seconds off. So we could see, if this race was 30 minutes long, it could be much more of a dramatic fight. And speaking of dramatic, I think Rosencroft and Justice had some sort of coming together, as Josh Justice has dropped down to P number 6, as losing out on more spots. There must have been an incident. Yeah, you can see him very slow on the exit of turn number 5. They're battling hard. I just mentioned not very long ago that with the hard battling they've done all throughout this race, they could end in tears, and I think it just did here, Charles.
Yep, we'll take a look as they're coming. Oh, just lost it on his own and didn't look like there was any contact made, and just lost the car coming through the corner. And it actually did check up Wozencroft as well. So now that's Huffman out with a nice gap of looks like about a second and a half over Love, who is now up to P3, and Jim Brewster's now up to third. Yep, just lost it. And that's a difficult corner. It's got some camber to it, but it just seems like some of these corners with the sand, it just makes them very, very, it obviously makes the track abrasive, but it makes them very, very slick. And so just lost it. Maybe he just carried too much speed through there. And so he's going to have a tough time. He might get a chance to get a spot back. I think we're going to be, we're coming up to the white flag, I think, next lap.
I think we may be on the white flag now. We're coming up to actually, yeah, it will be borderline. So Jake King is going to be rounding his way through turn number 10 here. And with 25 seconds left to go on the clock, we are taking the white flag this time by. I forgot that it was determined by the leader in the Formula 4s. It is going to be borderline. 15 seconds left to go on the clock. He's exiting that turn. Taking the white flag is Jake King. So with it's only 7 seconds to spare there. So it shows you just a little bit of time can make a huge difference when it comes to these fights. Cabanca, as I said earlier before all sorts of chaos developed in the Formula Vs, if this race was 30 minutes long, we'd probably be looking at Christian Cabanca possibly winning it, because he has had monumental pace all throughout it. If he set a qualifying time and started this race in third, up there with everyone else, and even if he wasn't broken away and in the midst of the Formula V chaos at the very beginning, that 2.6 second gap would probably be a 2.6 second gap for him at the very front of the field. Justin Huffman, meanwhile, surprisingly in a very similar, it's a case of deja vu in the Formula Vs. We saw the last time the Ray Esports Racing League ran here, a little bit of contact, a little incident at the very end for the Formula Vs, broke up a nice pack of cars. It's happening again in the Formula Vs as Justin Huffman is extending that gap nearly to 2 seconds. But right now it's only a couple of tenths separating Jake King and Miles Crab. These two are giving it everything they absolutely can, chucking it through the corkscrew, sending their way around the rainy curve right now, heading into turn number 10, unless we see some absolute bravery and stones-worthy move from Miles Crab heading into the final corner, which he does not go for. It's going to be Jake King, who started this race from the pole in the number 39 car. He's been a standout star in the Formula Fords, and Jake King is going to win yet again in the Formula Ford category. He wins over Miles Crab in second, and Christian Cabanca only 2.5 seconds back there at the end, ends up in third. Stevie Ray a little bit farther behind as well. In the Formula Vs, it's going to be an intense fight between Wozencroft, Love, and Brewster for those final podium positions. Hey, don't discount Jacob Schilling. He's involved in that as well, and he'll be looking to pick up the pieces if these drivers come to blows. That's running wide and into the dirt is Jim Brewster. He'll be lucky if he doesn't pick up a slowdown for that. Certainly slowed him down, dipping 2 wheels into the dirt, and Jacob Schilling nearly went into the dirt to try and make it 3 wide, heading into the corkscrew, side by side, and contact being made between the two of them. They are lucky that we didn't see a Formula V car get sent into low Earth orbit. Jacob Schilling down the inside into turn number 9, trying to battle hard with Jim Brewster for P number 4. But with them battling hard, it looks like Love and Wozencroft are going to pull away to round out the podium positions in the Formula Vs. Justin Huffman, Jamison Huffman, his name's Justin Huffman in iRacing, but Jamison Huffman behind the wheel, and he's going to pull off the double tonight. He wins in the Formula V category with an impressive drive, 3.2 seconds ahead of Andrew Love and Andrew Wozencroft, the two Andrews that'll round out our podium in the Formula V category. Man, that was very, very hard fought stuff. I wonder how things would have been different if Josh Justice didn't get struck by a falling anvil heading through turn number 5. But still, regardless, that was nuts in the Formula Vs, but also just about what we always expect from those cars.
Yeah, for sure. That's the kind of racing we expect from the Formula Vs. Great race throughout. Yeah, just a couple of small mistakes, and that was a difference. We could have had 6 wide at the finish line otherwise. But yeah, great racing. And just to say, the fastest third place driver ever, Christian Cabanca, his fast lap was 45 hundredths of a second faster than Jake Keen's fastest lap, who was the race winner. And that's just how fast he was in the car. It's just, you know, if you don't qualify, I know he didn't qualify probably just because he wanted to have some fun and run the race. So, you know, it's but it was a pretty dominant performance to come from, you know, 12, 15 seconds back to only finish 2.5 seconds behind the winner.
That is man and machine in harmony for Christian Gabanka. Jake King has been the standout star in this series all throughout this season, dating all the way back to the very beginning. He has been a force to be reckoned with in that category. I wonder if Zach Rivardo, reigning champion in the Formula Fords, was involved in racing week in and week out throughout this season. That would be a monumental fight between the two of them. I think we'll take a look at the results here in just a couple of moments time, and there they are. Jake King ends up winning it. Miles Crabbe ends up in P number 2. Christian Gabanka, as you said, smooth move. Gabanka makes up the most spots of anyone throughout tonight's racing festivities, ends up in P number 3. You gotta wonder if he set a qualifying time, how dominant it would have been of a drive for him and how intense of a fight it would have been in the Formula Fords. And then rounding out the Formula Ford field is going to be Stevie Ray, who ends up P4 overall.
Yeah, so Jamison Huffman gets your race wins, what you get when you read. Gets the race win in the Formula Vs. Andrew Love with a very good second place, up 4 positions to take second in the Vs. Andrew Wozencroft third, Jacob Schilling in 4th, Jim Brewster in 5th, Seth Spolman in 6th, Josh Justice ends up 7th after the late race spin. Michelle Lynn in 8th, Wayne Buttermore 9th, Mark Sherman 10th, Joaquin Effinger in 11th, and Gary Kittle did not take the start and ends up in P14 and the last car on the grid.
Gotta say, not a good night for drivers with the number 2 on their race car. Number 2's my number, so I guess shows you a very bad omen whenever it's involved with me in the racing world. But we have some drivers waiting in the interview waiting area. I think I'll have a chat with actually, Charles, you interviewed him earlier, so I think I'll have you have a chat with him again. Would you like to chat with our winner of both the Spec Racer Fords earlier and the Formula Vs, that being Jamison Huffman?
Well, sure. We'll talk to Jamison again. All right, Jamison, congratulations, 2 for 2 tonight. It was a pretty easy, we'll say an easy win. It was a 3-second margin of victory, but it was a pretty tight battle between you and Wozencroft and Justice for most of the race.
Oh yeah, it was a really fun race. We were pretty much always changing positions or always trying to, and I was just kind of having fun with it. I wasn't really thinking about, is this a smart move? Are we going to lose time? Are we going to gain time? I was just kind of having fun, and I think that's what we were all doing for most of it. But I finally got a strategy that I wanted to run, and it ended up going out the window when I saw Justice and Wozy off the road behind me in 5. So
yeah, that was kind of a anticlimactic ending to the race. It was just a simple spin, and it was just nothing more than a simple mistake by Justice. Unfortunately, kind of took the wind out of the battle. But congratulations on your second victory of the night. Is there anybody you want to thank or give a shout out to?
Really just thank my parents. Kind of the same stuff as usual. Thank you guys for broadcasting this, and Stevie for hosting this whole series. Because this thing's been up forever, man. I think I've been here since season 2 on and off, so it's been an amazing series. The drivers are always fun.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. So congratulations, Jamison. We'll let you have a good night, and we'll see you next week.
Yep, thank you. See you.
That was Jamison Huffman pulling off the double tonight. I think I am going to have a quick little chat with our hard charger and heavy fire all throughout actually no, we'll have a chat with our hard charger Christian Gabanka. It's between Andrew Wozencroft and Christian Gabanka. I think I'll have a chat with probably the most impressive man all throughout tonight's action. Christian, thank you for joining us in the commentary booth. A hard fought night from you in both the Spec Racer Fords and the Formula Ford. So how was it out there this evening?
Yeah, it was great fun, and I'm actually really sorry for the start. I didn't know that I would line up with the Formula Fords. I thought it was going to be separated by class, but yeah, that was an interesting start, and I had great fun for both for the Formula Ford and the SRF races.
Well, touching on that start here in this Formula race, you must have gotten a view of them going 4 wide going down the start-finish straightaway. This is a fairly blunt question, and I'll ask it anyway. What the hell was going through your mind when you were seeing Formula Vs go 4 wide at the very start?
Where's the gap? I couldn't pass them right away because there was just no gap, and I had to make some gaps for myself. I had to go on the gravel a bit, and I'm thankful that I didn't lose the car. So I hope I didn't scare those guys because it was a bit sketchy though.
I think you dealt with it very well. There was a pretty clean way to cut through the field, and you had to do it twice as well. The lap traffic is always a huge role in these Formula races. So would you like to kind of explain to the viewers how tricky it is dealing with the lap traffic at a race like this?
Yeah, it's very tricky. It's a bit like driving LMP1 prototype and you're coming up against GT3 cars. It's just trying to time the overtake well so that both cars wouldn't crash into each other and we both don't lose too much time with our respective races.
Well, I gotta imagine from your perspective, it is quite stressful all throughout this this night, and from our perspective, it was very fun to see you cut through the field like a hot knife through butter. So we're going to be heading to Mid-Ohio next week. If you are there for that race, what are your thoughts heading into it?
Yeah, I'm excited. I like Mid-Ohio. I don't think we'll race the SRF. I think we'll do the Formula Fords and the Spec Mazda. I'll remember the rules next time. I will try to at least start, if I wanted to, I want to start in the back of my class, so I might have to set a qualifying lap, so I'll remember that.
And just drive around the whole track at pit speed and try not to get hit by anyone as you try and do it. But Krishna Kabanka, thank you for joining us in the commentary booth. Is there anyone you want to give a thanks to or shout out?
Thanks to Stevie for letting me race this league. It's these guys are very fun and very clean drivers, and it's a lot of fun.
And I'll tell you what, you make it a heck of a lot funner. That is for darn sure. So, Krishna Kabanka, thank you for joining us. Congratulations on just cutting through the field and being a fantastic spectacle all throughout tonight's action. Hope to see you next week at Mid-Ohio, and hope to see you on track with the Weekend Warrior Series as well.
Yep. Thank you, guys. Yep. See you in the next race.
And thank you for the other kind words as Krishna Kabanka, who I think was probably the highest position gainer by a matter of about tenfold. And I think, Charles, would you like to have a quick little chat with Andrew Wozencroft?
Yeah, let's get Andrew in here. He's been waiting, so we'll talk to him real quick. Andrew, congratulations, P3. It was so from your perspective, obviously you got kind of caught up in or caught behind Josh when he had his little spin there at the late stages of the race. But between the three of you, that was a really good battle for most of the race.
Yeah, it was. I was actually at Inset Laguna this weekend, and I got to hang out with Aaron Johansson and John Son, I should say. I apologize, and Nathan Nicholson. And I had a little bit of inspiration. And when I went in the dirt, I was like, I'm gonna pull a Nate and try to come as far forward as I can. But that was so much fun.
Yeah, it looked like a great battle here as well, and it just like you guys were battling hard and swapping over each time, and it kind of looked like that second group of cars was going to kind of get involved in it, and make it a 6-car battle. But then, like I said, you had the Justice had his little half spin that you got kind of caught behind, and Love was able to get you. But I think you were on board for at least a P2 and possibly a win, just based on your performance tonight.
Yeah, I actually thought I was racing Justin, Jameson's dad. That's what I said. And then in the interview room, I realized it was Jameson because I was going to give huge props to Justin. I was like, man, I don't know what's going on, but you got a little bit of Jameson, yeah, which is true the other way around. But no, Jameson drove great, and it was tough luck for Justin. I know he was trying to defend. And I just got to give a shout out to Jim Brewster. Like I didn't know where he was coming through the corkscrew on the last lap, and I came across thinking I was clear, and I kind of pushed him out, and I know you got a slowdown. I felt really, really, really bad, but you're right. I was worried about the second group. The Andrew, Jim, the whole group has a huge. With Jacob, they have a huge amount of pace, and I just like, if they get here, you never know how it's going to finish.
Exactly. Was there anybody else you want to give a thanks to?
Yeah, I gotta thank my parents, my dad, my mom. They're always watching. To my kids, to Apex for always putting on a great show. To you, Charles, Joshua, Ron back in the booth, and to Stevie, the sponsors, and I love Laguna. For those if they've never been, please go. It's definitely a bucket list item.
Yeah, definitely on my bucket list as well, Andrew. Congratulations, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Yep.
That was Andrew Wosencroft giving some good insight into how it was behind the wheel and some good travel advice as well. I'd love to come to Laguna Seca at some point, probably once I reach drinking age, so I can enjoy the wine country as well. But I think before we wrap things up here, we should talk about the sister series here to the Ray Esports Racing League. Of course, as I mentioned earlier, we have the next round of the Ray Esports season coming up this upcoming Tuesday on the 21st. That'll be at Mid-Ohio. That is going to be very fun. The Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warriors are going to be running at Mid-Ohio as well for the 10th round of their season, along with the Formula Ford Weekend Warriors running at Imola. So that's kind of in conjunction with the Formula One race. So that's going to be very interesting this upcoming Sunday. So we've got action from this series on Tuesday. We've got the Weekend Warriors on Sunday. But if you're missing out on some stuff involving the SCCA, on Fridays, the Inside the SCCA podcast and Brian Belansky has got you covered. A great podcast to sink your teeth into if you're a member of the SCCA. Episodes in that show drop every Friday, so you can listen to them on your way to the racetrack. We've got some great action coming up here for the Ray Esports Racing League. Only 2 races to go after tonight before we rock up to Indy for the runoffs at the beginning of June. Charles, this has been a fantastic season so far. We don't have a whole lot of time left to go for this season, but just what are your thoughts coming into the final 2?
Yeah, it's going to be, next week with Mid-Ohio. It's just a fantastic racetrack. I think people shy away from it because it's a very technical track, and it's an old school racetrack, lots of grass runoff. But for these cars, it's really amazing racing, and I'm looking forward to it. These cars always put on a fantastic show there. And it's going to be great. And of course, obviously, I love the Weekend Warrior Series. Imola, obviously, an iconic track, and that's going to be fun. It'll be nice to see those Formula cars try and work their way through there. So that'll be a very interesting sight. So we'll have to see how that's going to turn out.
If you're a viewer here on Apex Racing TV, you're spoiled for choice. We've got great racing all around the clock, day in and day out, week in and week out. Gives you more of a reason to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell as well. But with that chilling out of the way, we'll wrap things up here. So for myself, Ron Mullins, Charles Bichot joining me in the commentary booth, and Josh Wilkie doing a wonderful job in the virtual production hauler, I say thank you all so much for watching. Have a great rest of your night, and we'll see you all again in 1 week's time.
Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, You owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.